I had no idea the British press was so bigoted.
Rejoice. Yes, rejoice. There is no more. No more of what? Well, as a consequence of this one's wife's appearance on Emma Greed's podcast, this one's wife explained that her Confessions of a Female Founder podcast won't return for a second season. Huzzah! What a surprise! This one's wife has failed to deliver a second season. She hasn't delivered a second of anything. The supposed second season of her awful cookery programme with Love Meghan is part 2 of season 1. It wasn't granted a second season. It's just been described as that in order to keep her happy. 40 by 40 didn't even get through the first stages. She wrote one book. There was no follow-up in relation to that. She created American Riviera Orchard. It didn't go anywhere, as ever hasn't gone anywhere. She had her podcast with Archetypes. That was ditched by Spotify. There was no second season. And it would appear that this is going to be the case with Lemonada. She states that at least not yet is there going to be a second season. Slight threat that it might reappear. Don't worry, it won't. Because she's focusing her energy on building her lifestyle brand as ever. Ha! This podcast was bollocks. It didn't have any impressive guests on it. None whatsoever. You probably would be hard-pressed to remember who was actually on it, other than Jamie Threename and Beyoncé's mother. Who else was on it? We can't recall. It failed to chart. So how could that be deemed to have been successful? It was, quite simply, boring. I didn't waste my time listening to any of it, but I certainly looked at significant excerpts of it, and it was evident that the clips that she shared, what was written about in the mainstream media, it was dull, absolutely dull. This is because she hasn't got any appreciable talent. Hilariously, she wants to focus on building her lifestyle brand. She shared the update during the June 17th episode of Aspire with Emma Greed. During the chat, she confirmed her podcast is currently on pause. Yeah, it's been ditched. As I knew I was in this building phase of my business, what an amazing opportunity to pull back the curtain and let people see what's happening at the start, and to then take everyone's advice, and mine included, and to say, I love that there's so much excitement and desire for another season, but I need to focus on my business. Excuse me, what excitement? From where? Your show wasn't even in the top 200. It dropped out very quickly because nobody's interested in it. It was boring. It didn't have interesting guests. They weren't allowed to speak. They were just there to make you seem like you were wonderful. The fact is, nobody was excited for it, and certainly nobody wants a second season other than you. And to say that she is in the building phase of her business, what business? There is no business. There's just some Potemkin brand that has been generated with the expectation of somebody coming in and saying, we'll pay you several $100 million and you can be the face of this brand. We'll now go and do all of the work. There's no infrastructure. There is no logistics set up for it. People ordered things and didn't receive anything because there was nothing to actually sell. Gift boxes were sent out, but they were sent at the time when there was no ability to buy anything. It didn't link up with her show correctly. It was a complete mess. There is no business, and it's laughable that this one's wife suggests that she's pausing the podcast because she needs to focus on the business. Yet she's basically saying, I'm too busy to do the podcasts, but I've got time to come and tell you that by appearing on a podcast. Right. Makes plenty of sense. This is the idiocy of this one's wife, that she's deluded into thinking that she actually has a business when she hasn't. She's also deluded into believing that people want to listen to what she has got to say. The fact is that Lemonada will have got rid of her. The fact is, they got the publicity, which was what it was only ever about. They probably didn't pay her anything or very little. Instead, they gave her a platform. And they benefited because, as I've mentioned to you before, very few people had heard of Lemonada until they hosted this one's wife. And their game plan, and this was something confirmed by my PR expert, was for people then to come to Lemonada, that they would get name recognition, and then people would see what other offerings were available. In essence, this one's wife was just a great big sign to say, come and look at us, but don't worry so much about her podcast. We all know it's going to be crap, and it was. They've got the publicity. They're not going to bother utilising her for a second season. Why? You're not going to get more publicity than that which you've already got. They're not wanting to spend any money on her. And furthermore, they know that there isn't an appetite to listen to beige word salads, fridge magnet platitudes, and self-indulgent masturbatory anecdotes from a talentless blowhard. The fact is, it's hilarious that this one's wife pops up on a podcast and tells us, well, there isn't going to be a second season, which is her attempt to deflect from the fact that Lemonada don't want her, and instead what she's doing is saying, now I'm focusing on my business. What, the business that doesn't sell anything? The business that you said a little while ago you were standing back and assessing things. I know from a clip that she starts crapping on about various aspects, spilling the word salad where she's just learned a load of phrases that are associated with business and she throws them around to make it sound as if she knows what she's talking about. But it's great news that there won't be a further podcast. After all, it's dross. But this is yet another example of this one's wife having to deflect from her failure. In the conversation, Greed explained, so wait a minute, this was a decision to say, I'm going to stop this now, even though you were having huge success. Yes, this one's wife replied. So, first of all, we know she wasn't having huge success, but if for a moment we assume that she was, you can understand Emma Greed saying, so you're being successful and then you decide to stop. Are you a moron? She states that Greed states, I was hearing about that podcast everywhere and you decided to stop and focus on the business. This one's wife answered, have to. Well, that's probably true. She has to because there isn't going to be a second season of the podcast because Lemonada don't want it. And therefore, tail between her legs, she then has to spin it by saying, oh, yeah, I'm pausing it. Thus, it makes it look like she's the decision maker. And I have to do this because I need to focus on a business, even though there isn't really a business. Yet again, more lies from this one's wife. Yet again, more failure from this one's wife. But at least for the foreseeable, we don't have to suffer any more podcast nonsense of her presenting. I'm HG Tudor. Thank you for listening.